Today, we are going to tell you the story you haven't heard. This is the story of the quiet unraveling of a beloved reality TV couple. This is the story of Zach and Tori Roloff's divorce. And, in a revelation that will shock even the most ardent fans, we will introduce you to the secret girlfriend who has been waiting in the wings. This is a story of betrayal, of hidden resentments, and of a love that was ultimately suffocated by the very thing that made it famous, the relentless glare of the public eye. So buckle up, because what you are about to hear will change the way you see little people, big world forever. To understand the end of a love story, we must first go back to its beginning. Zach Roloff, the shy and reserved son of Matt and Amy Roloff, and Tori Patton, the vibrant and outgoing kindergarten teacher, seemed like an unlikely pair. Their courtship, which began in 2010, was a central storyline on Little People, Big World. We saw their first date, their first kiss, and the tender moments that blossomed into a deep and abiding love. Their wedding in 2015 was a television event, a seemingly perfect day that solidified their place as reality TV royalty. But even then, if you look closely, you can see the faint, almost invisible cracks beginning to form in the foundation of their relationship. Dr. Alana Sterling speaking. When a relationship is born and nurtured in the public eye, it exists under a unique and immense pressure. Every milestone, every disagreement, every intimate moment is a potential storyline. For Zach and Tori, their love story was, in many ways, a commodity. It was packaged and sold to an audience that craved authenticity, but the very act of filming can erode that authenticity over time. And that erosion, as we've discovered, began much earlier than anyone realized. While the show portrayed a harmonious union, sources close to the couple, who have requested to remain anonymous, paint a different picture. They speak of a growing disconnect between Zach and Tori, a chasm that was papered over for the cameras. From the beginning, there was a fundamental difference in how they handled the fame. Tori embraced it. She was a natural in front of the camera, and she understood the power of their platform. Zach, on the other hand, always seemed more hesitant, more withdrawn. He loved his family, he loved Tori, but he was never comfortable with the performance aspect of it all. This difference in their personalities, once a charming example of opposites attract, began to create a quiet friction. Tori, with her outgoing nature and savvy understanding of social media, became the public face of their family. She curated their image, she shared their lives with millions of followers, and in doing so, she inadvertently cast a shadow over her husband. Think about it. How many times did we see Tori take the lead in interviews? How often was it her voice that narrated their family's journey on social media? This wasn't a malicious act on her part. It was a natural extension of her personality. But for a man like Zach, who, according to our sources, was already struggling with the pressures of living up to the Roloff name, it was a slow and steady chipping away at his own sense of self. Dr. Alana Sterling. In any relationship, there needs to be a balance of power, a sense of partnership. When one partner becomes the primary spokesperson, the other can begin to feel voiceless, their own identity subsumed by the more dominant personality. In the context of a reality show, this dynamic is amplified 1,000-fold. The narrative is shaped, consciously or unconsciously, by the person who is more comfortable in the spotlight. And as the years went on, that narrative, the one curated by Tori and the show's producers, began to diverge more and more from the reality of their marriage. The birth of their 3 children, Jackson, Lila, and Joja, brought immense joy, but it also brought new and unforeseen challenges. Raising children is a beautiful and demanding journey for any couple, but for Zach and Tori, it was also a central plot point of their television show. The joys and the struggles of parenting were not just private experiences. They were storylines to be filmed, edited, and consumed by millions. Anonymous source 2, text on screen. Every parenting decision, every milestone, every challenge with the kids' health was a discussion that involved not just Zach and Tori, but a team of producers. It's an immense pressure to put on a young family. The lines between their real lives and the show became so blurred that I don't think even they knew where one ended and the other began. This constant scrutiny, this need to perform their family life for an audience, began to take its toll, particularly on Zach. He had always been a more private person, and the relentless exposure of his children's lives was a source of growing anxiety for him. Zach started to pull away. He became more and more withdrawn, both on and off camera. He would retreat to his workshop, spend hours by himself. It was his way of coping, of finding a space that wasn't being filmed or photographed. But in pulling away from the cameras, he was also, inadvertently, pulling away from Tori. And this is where the cracks in the foundation began to widen into a chasm. While Tori saw their public platform as a way to connect with the world and build a future for their family, Zach began to see it as a cage, a golden cage, but a cage nonetheless. The very thing that had brought them together was now tearing them apart. And it was in this growing emotional distance that the seeds of a secret were sown, a secret that would ultimately shatter the carefully constructed image of their perfect life. For years, Zach Roloff was the dutiful husband, the loving father, the quiet co-star of his wife's carefully curated life. But behind the closed doors of their battleground, Washington home, a different story was unfolding. A story of a man who felt lost and a woman who offered him a refuge from the storm. Zach Roloff's secret girlfriend named Hannah Jensen. She is not a public figure. She is not a reality TV star. She is a woman who, according to our sources, entered Zach's life at a time when he needed it most. We have pieced together the story of their relationship from multiple sources, each of whom has requested anonymity out of fear of retribution from the powerful machinery of reality television. What they have revealed is a story of a clandestine affair that went on for much longer than anyone could have imagined. We all knew something was going on with Zach. He was different. He seemed lighter in a way when he thought the cameras weren't on him. He would be on his phone a lot, smiling to himself. We just assumed he was texting with Tori, but now, looking back, it's so obvious. Host. According to our sources, Zach met Hannah in a place where he could be himself, away from the prying eyes of the cameras, a local community center where he volunteered his time coaching youth soccer. Hannah was a fellow volunteer, a single mother with a quiet strength and a genuine, down-to-earth demeanor that was a world away from the high-stakes world of reality television. Hannah didn't know who Zach was at first. She didn't watch the show. She just saw him as the kind and patient coach who was great with the kids. For Zach, that was intoxicating. To be seen as just Zach, not Zach Roloff from Little People, Big World, was a breath of fresh air he hadn't realized he was suffocating for. Their connection began as a friendship, a series of quiet conversations after soccer practice, a shared understanding of the joys and challenges of parenthood. But for Zach, it quickly became something more. Hannah offered him an escape, a world where he wasn't a character in a television show, but a man with his own thoughts, his own feelings, his own desires. Dr. Alana Sterling. When a person feels that their identity is being erased in a relationship, they may seek validation elsewhere. This is not always a conscious decision. It can be a subconscious pull towards a person or a situation that makes them feel seen and heard for who they truly are, not for the role they are playing. Host. And the role of Tori's husband was one that Zach, according to our sources, was finding increasingly difficult to play. While Tori was busy building their brand, engaging with their millions of followers, and navigating the demands of their public life, Zach was quietly building a second life, a life with Hannah. The secrecy of their affair was paramount. They would meet in out-of-the-way places, communicate through burner phones, and take elaborate precautions to avoid being seen together. It was a classic tale of forbidden love, made all the more intense by the high-stakes world in which Zach lived. There were times when Zach would just disappear for hours. He'd say he was going to the hardware store or running errands. He'd be gone for half the day. Tori was so busy with the kids and the show that I don't think she even noticed, or if she did, She didn't question it. She trusted him completely. And that trust, that unwavering belief in the man she had married, is what makes this story so tragic. While Tori was presenting a united front to the world, her husband was falling in love with another woman, a woman who represented everything that his life with Tori was not: simple, private, and real. Hannah was the complete opposite of Tori. She was quiet, she was private, and she had no interest in the limelight. She was a safe harbor for Zach, a place where he could just be himself. He could talk to her about his fears, his frustrations with the show, his feeling of being trapped. And she would just listen, without judgment, without an agenda. The affair, which began as an emotional connection, eventually became physical. And with that, Zach crossed a line from which there was no return. He was no longer just a man with a secret. He was a man living a lie. A lie that would eventually come crashing down around him, and in the process, destroy the family that millions had come to adore. A secret of this magnitude cannot be kept forever. In the world of reality television, where every move is scrutinized and every word is analyzed, the truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface. And for Zach and Tori Roloff, the unraveling began with a single, innocuous event: the end of Little People, Big World. On the surface, their decision to leave the show that had defined their lives for over a decade was presented as a united front, a desire to protect their children and step away from the public eye. But behind the scenes, a different drama was playing out. Leaving the show was Zach's ultimatum. He told Tori that he couldn't do it anymore, that he was done with the cameras, the producers, the constant performance. He gave her a choice: the show or him. Host. For Tori, this was a devastating blow. The show was not just her career. It was her life. It was the platform she had used to build a brand, to connect with her followers, to provide for her family. To walk away from it all was to walk away from a part of herself. But faced with the prospect of losing her husband, she reluctantly agreed. If you watch their announcement video closely, you can see the strain in their smiles, the forced casualness of their body language. Tori, usually so vibrant and expressive, seems subdued, her eyes tinged with a sadness that the camera can't quite hide. Zach, on the other hand, seems almost relieved, as if a great weight has been lifted from his shoulders. Dr. Alana Sterling. When a major life change like this is forced upon a couple, it can create a significant power imbalance. One person has made a unilateral decision that affects both of their lives, and the other person is left to grapple with the consequences. This can lead to deep-seated resentment and a feeling of being unheard and devalued. And that resentment, as our sources tell us, began to simmer beneath the surface of their marriage. With the show no longer a buffer between them, the cracks in their relationship became impossible to ignore. The emotional distance that had been growing for years was now a vast and empty space between them. Once the cameras were gone, they were just two people in a house with 3 kids and a lot of unspoken words. The things they had been able to ignore when they were busy filming were now front and center. The silence was deafening. It was in this silence that Tori began to notice the small, seemingly insignificant things that had previously gone unnoticed. The late-night phone calls that Zach would take outside. The unexplained absences. The emotional detachment that had become his default setting. The discovery of the affair was not a single dramatic moment, but a slow and painful dawning of the truth. It was a series of small clues, of half-truths and flimsy excuses that finally coalesced into a heartbreaking reality. We can only imagine the depth of Tori's devastation. The man she had loved, the man she had built a life with, the father of her children, had been living a double life. The fairy tale was a lie. The perfect family was a sham. The confrontation, when it finally came, was explosive. According to our sources, it was a raw and painful outpouring of years of unspoken resentments, of hidden truths, and of a love that had been irrevocably broken. Tori was blindsided. She had no idea. She had trusted Zach completely, and he had betrayed her in the most profound way. The anger and the hurt were immense. But there was also a deep, deep sadness. She had lost not just her husband, but the life she had thought she had. Host, for Zach, the discovery of his affair was the catalyst for a decision he had been contemplating for a long time. The life he had been living, the lie he had been perpetuating, was no longer sustainable. He was in love with Hannah, and he was no longer willing to live in the shadows. The divorce, which has been kept under wraps for months, was a quiet and painful process. There were no public statements, no dramatic headlines. It was a private tragedy playing out behind the closed doors of their once happy home. Tori, according to our sources, is still reeling from the shock and the betrayal. She is focused on her children, on trying to create a new normal for them in the wake of their family's implosion. She has been leaning on her family and a close circle of friends, but the road ahead will be long and difficult. And Zach, he has moved on. He is building a new life with Hannah, away from the cameras, away from the public eye that he had come to despise. He has chosen a different path, a path that has led him away from the family and the life that millions had come to know and love. The story of Zach and Tori Roloff's divorce is a cautionary tale about the perils of life in the public eye. It is a story about the corrosive effects of fame, the pressure to maintain a perfect image, and the human desire for authenticity in a world that often values performance over reality. As of the recording of this program, neither Zach nor Tori have publicly confirmed their divorce. They are navigating this difficult time in private, and for the sake of their children, we can only hope that they are able to find a way to co-parent peacefully and with respect for the love that they once shared. Tori, by all accounts, is focusing on her role as a mother, pouring her love and energy into her 3 children. Her social media presence has become more subdued, more reflective, a stark contrast to the vibrant and bubbly persona she once projected. It is the portrait of a woman who is quietly rebuilding her life, piece by piece, in the wake of an unimaginable heartbreak. And Zach, he has finally found the privacy he so desperately craved. He and Hannah Jensen are living a quiet life, away from the spotlight, building a new future together. According to our sources, they are happy, and Zach feels as though he has finally found a place where he truly belongs. More update. Lil People's Tori Roloff drops big baby news after fans suspect she's pregnant and welcoming 4th child with Zach. And Zach and Tori get rid of unwanted guests. I will explain everything. Their daughter, Lila, is 3 years old, and Tori, 31, and Zach, 33, are very proud parents to Jackson, 5, Joja, 1, and themselves. The fans of Lpbw have been eagerly anticipating the arrival of their 4th child, as each of their children has been absolutely stunning. On Thursday afternoon, Tori featured a nap-stuck Q+A on her Instagram story. Is she expecting a 4th child? Asked one of her fans. The reality TV star gave an unfiltered answer, posting a gif of a man's no finger beside an image of an airplane wing. Regarding the topic of having further children, Tori has always been quite forthright. It seems like we have been quite forthright about our desire to have no additional children, the woman said. Apologies, but I am not pregnant. I have had 3 pregnancies end in miscarriage and 3 infants delivered via cesarean surgery. The way my body looked like it had been through hell. Recently, Tori broke some distressing news regarding her son Joja and pleaded with her followers to keep him in their prayers. Using a toy Jeep, the reality celebrity's daughter drove the baby around the backyard as the star watched on. Even as Tori shot footage of her garden, complete with patio furniture, toys, and even a family dog, the child skillfully guided the small vehicle across the grass. As Lila skidded uphill through dirt and grass, she showed off her driving skills by zipping past trees. While sitting in the passenger seat, Joja was seen bumping along with his bigger sister. Tori joked, "She is a better driver than I am," in the caption. On the other hand, the worried mother of 3 attached a note. It appears that spending time outdoors is the one thing that has helped Zse cope with his recent challenging growth spurt. "When the rain starts, please pray for us," she pleaded. The fact that Tori has skipped her husband's family's annual farm celebration is her way of taking a stand against them. She updated her social media with new photos of herself and her 3 children enjoying themselves. In a picturesque pumpkin patch, the family sought out the perfect squash. The 62-year-old father-in-law of hers, Matt Roloff, was notably in the midst of his annual celebration when they went pumpkin picking. Every year, Zach and Tori join the rest of the famous family at the Roloff Farms pumpkin farm. The situation escalated when Matt turned down requests from his twin sons, Zach and Jeremy, to purchase a piece of their family's 143-acre farm in Helvetia, Oregon. Matt made preparations to ensure that the family farm will continue to be run by his descendants after his passing, according to an exclusive report in the U.S. Sun. Due to the stress, Zach and his family decided not to attend this year's Roloff Farms event. Zach and Tori eliminate inconvenient visitors. Zach and Tori Roloff of Little People. Big World kick out nosy neighbors. Having said that, they do not hire an expert. Instead, they opt to take matters into their own hands. The future that Zach and Tori Roloff saw for themselves seems to involve living on his family's farm. However, the proposal fell short. They knew they needed to put the past in the past. Regardless, they found a sizable piece of land in an area they were happy with. The pair from Little People. Big World has been busy making their house a home for the past few years. They have been constructing new buildings and renovating old ones to enlarge their property. The addition of a garage gives him plenty of space to keep his gear, and a fantastic playground for their kids to go around in. They have also built a sandbox for the kids to play in. It has now become their ideal place to settle down and start a family. However, there are a few downsides to living on a sprawling property that is surrounded by wildlife. Some unwanted visitors showed up recently, and Zach and Tori had to deal with them. Additionally, they have a plan to eradicate them. Near their children's sandbox, Zach and Tori noticed a hive of bees. The children frequently played in the area surrounding the beehive, thus its removal was an obvious necessity. Nevertheless, they declined to engage a third party to finish the job. Taking down the beehive was never in her plans, the Little People, Big World actress says. Afterwards, her partner stepped in to complete the job. He wore a suit to protect himself from bee stings. Zach successfully removed the beehive from its perch in the tree. He went so far as to light it on fire in an effort to keep the bees away. Tori watched as her husband completed the task without getting in his way, as his father took down the beehive. Their son Jackson Roloff also observed. "It was literally bald-faced hornets," said Tori Roloff. She admits that these bees are the most aggressive and describes them as awful. The size of her thumb explained them. Consequently, she and Zach Roloff claim to have zero regrets regarding the destruction of the hive. Because they had demolished their habitat, the bees were upset, according to the Little People, Big World cast member. She captured every single bee swarming around the lone tree on film. She asserts that they are angry because her husband removed the beehive. But it all happened so fast that she could not get a good shot of the beehive falling off the tree. A viewer warned Zach and Tori that it would be very unsafe for them to remove the beehive on their own, suggesting that they should have gotten a professional. But instead of paying for pest control, they would rather buy a cheap suit and do it themselves. Tori Roloff, a household name thanks to her role in Little People, Big World, is never short of family news. Tori and Lila Roloff recently celebrated a major milestone together. What, therefore, transpired in this instance? Little People Big World's Lila Roloff, the middle child of Zach and Tori Roloff, has recently matured. As Lila grows older, many of her fans think dance will be an even more important outlet for her emotions. One way Lila expresses herself is via dance. Even when she is not dancing, Lila is the biggest fan of her dad and Jackson's older brother. At every soccer game, Lila cheers on Zach and Jackson from the sidelines. Those who appreciate Lila are thrilled to watch her continue to cultivate her strong sense of style and unique personality. Lila Roloff has proven herself to be a formidable combatant in addition to being a fashion star and a soldier. Lila had her tonsils removed as part of her treatment for sleep apnea. Having surgery is obviously never fun, but Lila did an excellent job. Surgery was necessary for Jackson Roloff for a variety of reasons as well. This time around, Lila was in charge, and her performance was about par for the course. Along with Zach and Tori Roloff, Lila was a big hit among Little People Big World fans. Lila Roloff has apparently celebrated a major milestone. According to Tori Roloff's latest posts, that was the day she formally began preschool. Sweet Lila Bean's first day of preschool. The overjoyed mother wrote alongside a series of endearing photos of Lila on her special day. She had been waiting impatiently for this day all summer. Having this girl accompany me all day is something I shall miss. Oh, how she brightens my day. I am aware that she is going to experience an exceptional year, and I am eagerly anticipating witnessing it all, Tori Roloff stated. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.